Do you believe in time travel? Dumb question, right? I mean, we're all traveling through time right now. Second by second, we're traveling into the future like that Steve Miller Band song. But what about time travel into the past? The thing to me is that it seems some laws of the universe don't allow for time travel to the past. For instance, if matter and energy are a constant in our universe, how could new matter or new energy from a different point in time be introduced by a human from the future popping into our current time? Wouldn't that throw the whole universe off balance and potentially cause some bizarre chain reaction that would destroy, well, everything? Unless, of course, I was somehow able to siphon energy from somewhere at the time period I was traveling to and transfer that to the energy that I would then become. Okay, that's confusing. Or this is a more popular paradox. What if I could go back in time to meet past relatives and say I spontaneously and spitefully decided to kill my great-grandfather? Which, by the way, that would be totally out of character for me, but bear with this mind game for just a moment. By killing my great-grandfather, would I essentially be stopping me from being born in the future and then stopping myself from going back in time to kill him in the first place? But then if I was stopped from going back in time to kill him and he lived, then I would be born eventually and would grow up to travel back in time to kill him, which would prevent me from being born to grow up to travel back in time to kill him. Okay. The idea of time travel through the past presents us with problems that have so many different variables to solve. If only we had someone to answer our questions about it, maybe things would be easier. Someone who has already traveled through time. Just one thing. Maybe there already has been somebody. What if someone did travel back in time and tell us all about time travel? And what if this person also explained that this grandfather paradox was possible, but wouldn't destroy him or the universe if it were carried out? This man's name was John Titor, and he came from the year 2036. So, I feel like I should clarify something really quick. I'm not sharing this story with you because I really want there to be a way for me to go back in time and kill my grandfather, and somehow I survive. That's really not what I want. And I hope no one out there is listening to this because they want that too. The reason I'm sharing this story is because it's bizarre and different. And there are people out there who actually believe that we were visited by a time traveler called John Titor back in the year 2000. I'm Daniel Aaron Moore. This is Just One Thing, a podcast about science, pseudoscience, and the esoteric in our universe. On message boards started in November of the year 2000, John Titor began posting mysterious messages pertaining to a mission he had been sent on to the year 1975 to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer and return it to his own time in 2036. He chose to stop by and visit his family in the year 2000 as a pit stop on his way back to his own time. Of course, this was the internet. And even in the year 2000, incredulous internet servers existed. So Titor was barraged with questions concerning the future, time travel, and what the deal was with the IBM 5100 computer. And he answered all those questions with a very succinct and matter-of-fact air. In fact, the manner in which he answered the questions helped to validate his stories. And believe me, his predictions of the future are chilling. For example, there are no more Olympics after the year 2004. Mad cow disease becomes a huge problem in the future. The United States will have a second civil war starting in 2005 that essentially splits the country up into 5 distinct but united countries. This leads to a worldwide nuclear war that will kill 3 billion people in the year 2015, which causes the water to become all but undrinkable due to nuclear fallout. I know what you're thinking. None of those things happened. 2005 has passed and there was no new civil war in the United States. We've had the Olympic Games on schedule every 4 years, summer and winter. Mad cow disease has not become a pandemic. And most importantly, and most evident, there has not been a nuclear catastrophe killing 3 billion people in the year 2015. These undeniable facts totally debunk Titor's claims, right? Right. Well, the fact is that science is basically a choose-your-own-adventure book. We can refute Titor's predictions by mere fact of the reality in which we live, or we can look at his claims from a scientific standpoint and see what stands up. Because according to quantum mechanics, Titor's story is not only plausible, all of his predictions may have happened. It's called the many worlds interpretation, and it implies that all possible alternate histories or futures are real. This was a theory presented by the American physicist Hugh Everett in 1957 and has since been updated, but still basically states that at the quantum level, all states of reality exist until they are observed. Now, quantum mechanics is a can of worms. It's just a huge tangled web, and I'm just your average Dan, drooling over my keyboard as I read Wikipedia page after Wikipedia page on the array of subjects that it involves. It's mind-bending and amazing, and dare I say, life-changing? Life-altering? Famous Danish physicist Niels Bohr once said that if you are not astonished by quantum mechanics, then you haven't understood it. That says something when even the smartest guys in the room have to stand back in awe of the scientific theory itself. Like I mentioned before, this is all a choose-your-own-adventure book, and we could go further down the rabbit hole that is quantum mechanics now, but perhaps I'll save more of that for another time. Titor claimed that Everett's many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics was true, and therefore the events in his world line may not happen to us. Titor said that based on the many worlds interpretation, there are no such things as time paradoxes. If he were to go to a world line where he killed his grandfather, then that wouldn't affect him at all, because he had come from a world line where his grandfather had not been killed by himself. So in essence, John Titor used science to talk his way out of any counterargument that an internet troll could throw at him. The Olympics didn't end after the 2004 games? Oh, that's just because we're on a different world line than Titor. The world didn't experience a tragic nuclear war in 2015? Different world line. But he did make some comments with an element of truth to them as well, such as his criticism that there were not any weapons of mass destruction to be found in Iraq at all, and that perhaps that idea was planted to justify a conflict there. Bear in mind that the September 11th terrorist attacks had yet to occur, so this mentioning is kind of odd. So, Titor went back in time to get a computer from IBM in 1975 to bring it back to 2036 to help with the debugging issue that only the 5100 could help solve. But on his way back, he decided to stop and visit with his family in Central Florida starting in late 2000. While he didn't go into much detail, Titor even claimed that he hung out with a 2-year-old version of himself during this time. Boy, the things I would tell a younger version of myself. That's a whole other podcast, though. Titor says that 6 months after he left our timeline, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, or more famously known as CERN, discovers time travel when they start up their Large Hadron Collider, a device used in many experiments to discover new particles, among other things. Based on CERN's discovery of time travel in 2001, the first time machine would be completed in 2034. And Titor would be recruited as an Army officer in 2036 to go back in time to retrieve the IBM 5100. So, what is the deal with the IBM 5100? Well, Titor revealed to his captive internet audience that the machine was capable of reading multiple programming languages and was needed to help solve a programming problem that would destroy the Unix system of computers back in 2036, which, by the way, is a whole story unto itself. There's some truth to that. Some former IBM employees actually corroborated Titor's story about the IBM 5100's capabilities, and they also questioned how he would know that information as IBM kept the 5100's multi-programming language secret for many years. Titor also claimed that he had a machine that could somehow read the divergence of realities, and that the 2000 that he landed in was at a 2% grade difference from the world line that he was from. Therefore, world events would turn up very differently for us in the year 2036. When asked by someone on the internet if he would be able to get back to his own world line, Titor admitted that he would never be able to go back to his exact world line, as according to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, there are an infinite amount of realities occurring. However, he would be able to go back to one where the IBM 5100 was needed, and that had hardly any noticeable changes from the world line that he originally came from. And, using his divergence device, he would be able to see how similar it was to the world line he was from. It should be interesting to point out that CERN did reveal in 2001 that they may be able to produce miniature black holes, the singularities that John Titor said helped make his time machine possible. His time machine was also discussed thoroughly, and oddly enough, Titor posted pictures of the machine schematics online and even of the machine itself. He said that he had it fitted into the back of a pickup truck. I suppose so that he could go mudding with the other Florida rednecks while traveling through time as well. Trust me, I'm from Florida. Going mudding is one of the least strange things people do regularly in motor vehicles. His last post appeared in March of 2001. Afterwards, we can only assume that he went back to his own time period and saved the world by bringing back an old computer. Either that, or the person pulling the prank got bored talking about physics with a bunch of internet science nerds. It's been pointed out that Titor's version of Florida in 2036 sounds pretty similar to the setup in the Pat Frank novel Alas Babylon. I read that book in high school and understand the comparison. The book takes place on the Florida coast right after a brief but devastating nuclear war in the U.S. Titor's version of the future focused on self-reliance and families sticking closer together out of the necessity for survival in the year 2036. The war they had experienced caused children to become more scarce and somewhat of a commodity. Therefore, every person on Earth became more precious to everyone else. Social differences became much fewer because everyone was suddenly on the same level of survival. These are all mirrored in Pat Frank's novel. Perhaps John Titor was inspired by this book and created a future that mirrored it in his message board prank. Or, perhaps in our world line, Pat Frank unintentionally wrote a prophetic work of nonfiction. John Titor claimed that he came from a very different future than the one we have experienced so far. But the future can change. We can change it. The past can't. Or can the past change? Or should I say, did the past change? Well, tune in next time and maybe we'll find out. Just One Thing is written, produced, and narrated by myself, Daniel Aaron Moore. If you liked this episode, please subscribe and review it on iTunes or any other podcast platform. Do you think that John Titor was a time traveler from the future? Well, find me on Twitter and tweet your ideas at me. My tag is JustOneThingDM. Or you can reach me by email at justonethingpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you next time.